we have couple of things apart from that also. From 45 to 47, we have on ground level or on the popular level, we have, for example, RIA. Even before that, or parallel to that, INA trials, which we have covered. We have RIN mutiny, which we have covered. We have Calcutta student protest, which we have covered. Apart from that, there is also another thing going on which we have not covered, and I don't think it is required, but we should know. The impact of communism on India was actually gaining some kind of foothold, and that was also the fear of British. They even termed Azad Hind Fauj, led by Subhash Chandra Bose, as a communist force. And here also in Calcutta, etc., you will see some impact of communism. When RIN mutiny had happened and the mutineers had come on the streets of Bombay, उनके पास 3 झंडे थे, एक कांग्रेस का, एक मुस्लिम लीग का और एक कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी का. So there was an impact of leftism. Russia जीत गई थी Second World War. So it was there, which we cannot deny. So we see another thing happening at that time, and that is lots of peasants and tribal revolts. We have, for example, Telangana. In Telangana, we have peasants rebelling against local zamindars, and that became so bloody and so violent, it got merged into Hyderabad Mukti Sangram after independence. After independence, it got merged into Hyderabad Liberation Force. More so that in the later decades, Telangana became a hotbed of Naxalism. The entire upper cadre, the officer class in Naxal movement came from Telangana, and lots of foot soldiers also, apart from Bengal. Then we have Tebhaga movement. Tebhaga movement was also very significant movement. It was in Bengal, again a peasant movement about Tebhag, 1/3 to be paid as a tax revenue. Peasant movement. If you go to Punjab, we have a movement called Patiala Muzara movement. If you go to Kerala also, we have a movement called Unapra movement. My point is that we do not need to study even Warlis. The Warlis in the western side, western part of India, they also revolted. So we have tribals and peasants. In case of Kerala, workers also revolting for their economic cause. Across the parts of India, it was going on. So these are 4 or 5 major movements. हमें पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. I just wanted to mention that. So what is the main point here? The main point, मेरा आज थोड़ा गला खराब है. Please bear with me. The main point is that in the Quit India movement, Congress was not in command. It gave some initial direction, then all the leadership was in jail. Entire movement happened outside Congress control, but with Congress inspiration. And now, after the World War II, Congress is not initiating any movement. All these movements, whether in cities or in forests or in villages, in southeast, north, is happening outside the purview of Congress. Congress, on the other hand, is focusing more on negotiated settlement. It is very clear. ये क्लियर होना चाहिए. कांग्रेस का एक तरह से कंट्रोल ओवर मास मूवमेंट धीरे धीरे it was a possibility that it might go out of hand. So, and parallel to that, what is happening? Riots, even much more vicious and worse across north and south. Communal riots in various cities. So 45-46 was a very dangerous movement. And अगर कांग्रेस उस समय गलती से भी, if it had started a movement, any national movement against British, it would have been more violent and it would have been more revolutionary and radical in nature. So British also were afraid कि भाई, we don't want that to happen. Let us finish this off. It's too much. So that is main context. So Congress on its own side has some kind of pressure to finish it. Otherwise, things are going worse. The country is moving towards a kind of civil war where every region, every class, every community is killing each other, which we do not want to happen. The state is now gradually weakening. For example, in the RIN mutiny, the soldiers denied to fire on the mutineers. For example, in INA trials, when the INA prisoners were released, the soldiers went in uniform to welcome them. So the government cannot rely on its own people to execute orders and ensure law and order. The thing which is happening in Manipur, for example, if you are in police and if you belong to one side or this side, you help your people. You cannot. When in Punjab problems happened 20-30 years ago, it was the same thing. The communal identity of a policeman, of an armyman who is in uniform becomes more important than his civic duty, than his official duty. And that is, your hands get molten. हाथ नहीं आपके, state काम क्या करे? We should not allow the situation to go that level. Let us negotiate, finish it off. So the question was how to negotiate, and that is the entire thing. So on the high tables at that time, when all these things are going on, parallel to them, we have certain initiatives. The first one is Wavell plan. Wavell was a viceroy. He tried to come up with certain plan, and then he negotiated that plan with Congress and League at Shimla conference. Ultimately, it failed. Then you have next plan coming up, that is cabinet mission. This plan also was the last ditch effort to ensure united India. By conceding as much as one can concede to Muslim League, only the one thing which is not conceded is independent state. Everything else is given to Muslim League. This is all Jinnah had imagined and dreamed of. Except for independent state, everything he wanted was given in this. Ultimately, Congress also accepted to a certain extent. But it involved forming interim government and constitutional assembly. And in both these places, Congress and Muslim League could not agree to each other. Entire effort came to naught, it failed. Finally comes Mountbatten to India. Mountbatten comes just a few months before ultimately we got independent, in 5-6 months. Entire duration of Mountbatten in India before independence is of 5 to 6 months, not more than that. Within that, he finished off everything. He ensured that Congress and League agrees to partition. How we ensured that, how we managed to persuade them or pressurize them, that is one type of politics. Secondly, it comes to execution. Then execution should happen as soon as possible. Boundary award, exact boundaries, lots of things are there, everything within 5 months. So all the things which were held up for decades and decades suddenly burst up. We have to look at Wavell plan, cabinet mission, all the politics that ensued cabinet mission, and Mountbatten plan. Apart from this, there are two additional plans as well, which were just theoretical, perhaps used for some kind of politics. For example, Wavell himself suggested another plan called breakdown plan, and then Mountbatten also suggested another plan called plan Balkan. So you have +1 over here and +1 over here. So what we have ultimately is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different plans coming up about what to do to settle India's question in a gap of 1.5 years, 2 years at max. There were also two major elections. In the December of 45 and January of 46, we had national elections and all the state elections. In every provinces there were elections, and there was also a national election, central government election. And then 6 months after that, in the month of June and July in 46, we had the election for the Constituent Assembly. So politics happened again at both levels. Apart from that, we also have one more general election in London. Churchill, the person who won British the freedom or the win in the World War II, was finally ousted. Generally, people cite that as a marker of British maturity, of democracy. The person who is suitable to win the war is not suitable to run in peacetime because he is too aggressive, too hawkish. In India, if somebody helps you win the world war under most adverse of conditions, he becomes hero. In Britain, Churchill became hero, no doubt. But the moment came when after the war is over, Churchill is ousted. Now we have certain different requirements. Your virtues, your capabilities, your skill sets are useful in certain other scenario. But in this scenario of reconstruction of society and economy, your skills are not useful. we are thankful to you, you won us World War, please go away. So Churchill was defeated in the election after the World War. In that place came a Labour Party, and for the first time Labour Party got comfortable majority on its own, and Labour Party was for a long time committed to India's freedom. So imperialist historian would say India's freedom was a gift to India given by Labourites. The Prime Minister was Clement Attlee. So Churchill went away and Attlee came, and then you have this cabinet mission, Mountbatten, all these things are done by Attlee from London. So Wavell is before that, and Attlee and everything after that, after the election of 45 in London. So we have those things. We have lots of attempts to form interim government, first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. So it is a little bit clogged timeline, but it is easy to understand. If you just, I will walk you through the timeline first, one by one, and then we can understand analysis also. Okay. So focus on this part now. Now, before the war was over, there were two very minor attempts, not very substantial, and I do not think that they were major in any way. But because we have them in books and there is some kind of attempt to resolve the deadlock between Indians on Congress one side and Muslim League on the other, हम उनको पढ़ लेते. But these are not very important things if you look at overall consequences. They were just attempts which did not bear any fruit. So it was the plan prepared by C. Rajagopalachari, the premier of Madras Presidency, with instruction from Gandhiji that there was a kind of deadlock as we have seen earlier in the era of Cripps mission. If bhai Congress and Muslim League don't agree with each other, neither with respect to the immediate plan nor with respect to long-term plan. Immediately, what should be the structure of Viceroy's Executive Council? There is no agreement. Which power should come to India? How much of the proportion of Muslim versus non-Muslim should be there? No agreement. And in the long term, what is dominion status, complete freedom, independence, partition? What is the picture? That is again there is disagreement. So it was an attempt in which Congress initiated the process by bypassing British altogether. हम आपस में decide कर ले, अंग्रेजों को तो मानना ही पड़ेगा. So that was the attempt. So what was the plan? It proposed immediately Muslim League to endorse Congress's demand for independence, and both of them should work together to get independence. So Muslim League so far is not supporting independence, it only is supporting Pakistan. So entire efforts of Muslim League is about Pakistan, not about India or entire India. So all the political force, all the negotiations, they represent only a sectional interest and not general interest. So Congress is saying them ki bhai please come on board, let us all together fight against British to get the freedom. If you do that, if you cooperate with us in forming the provisional government also at the center, provisional matlab interim. In the long term, we'll think about partition. But in the long term, whence? After the British are gone, we'll take some kind of plebiscite. जिस province को जो करना है करे. But we should not allow British to decide what to happen. We'll see. So the issue of partition will be decided after independence by holding a plebiscite in Muslim majority areas, and even in case of partition, both units shall maintain cooperation. Simple. But Jinnah is saying no, आपकी क्या guarantee? कल अंग्रेज चले गए, tomorrow British are gone, and then you say no, we don't want partition, or you bring some kind of new thing, procedural innovation by which you deny the partition. We don't trust you. There is complete trust deficit, so you want partition first, independence after. That is the whole idea. So it was a tacit acceptance of the League's demand for Pakistan. That is a negative thing about this thing, that Congress and Gandhi actually tacitly, indirectly accepted partition as a concept. The question was who will execute the partition and how and when. So in principle, indirectly, Congress has accepted Pakistan होना चाहिए. हमें कोई उसे दिक्कत नहीं है. They did not say it directly. What did they say? We'll see afterwards. Gandhi supported the formula. It was discussed by Gandhiji and Jinnah at Bombay. So Jinnah has a bungalow in Bombay. You know that. Even today it is still there. So there is a very famous photo of Gandhi going to Jinnah in that bungalow and then having discussion. It did not bear any fruit because Jinnah had certain reservations. Jinnah wanted the Congress to accept the two-nation theory right away. Gandhi did not do so explicitly. Jinnah wanted only the Muslim of Northwest and Northeast to vote in the plebiscite and not the entire population. So when you take a plebiscite at any point of time, in that plebiscite only Muslims should vote, but non-Muslims in the same region should not vote. That was his demand. It is very absurd. And thirdly, he said he opposed the idea of common center, that we do not want common central government. So he is asking explicit Pakistan. Plebiscite matlab janmat. You go to the people and take their opinion. It's a voting. But voting happens for, it's not election, it's people's vote on certain issue. For example, in certain democracies we have that, or certain bills which are very important, you go to the people, entire people vote, like Scotland and England issue. So all the people are voting on that. It's not the voting by the representatives, MPs, it's by people on issues. India doesn't have that process. But plebiscite was very much involved during partition. In Kashmir, we gave promise ki hum plebiscite karenge. In Junagadh, we conducted a promise. So Junagadh came to India, conducted plebiscite. That is the difference. While the Congress was ready to cooperate with the League for the independence of the Indian Union, the League did not care for independence of Union. It was only interested in a separate nation. So that came to a knot. So long-term visions do not match. What about short-term? So there was again one more attempt, a short-term attempt between the two people, Desai and Liaquat. So Desai is Bhulabhai Desai and Liaquat is Liaquat Ali Khan. Liaquat Ali Khan was a very interesting personality, a feudal background person. He became the finance minister in interim government, later on became Pakistan's first prime minister, and then he was assassinated in 1951 by 𝐂𝐭𝐿, by somebody. But anyway, so he was a very major leader of Muslim League at that time. So Bhulabhai Desai and Liaquat Ali Khan came together and they tried to have a pact. Now again, what was the pact? It proposed couple of things. It proposed for the formation of interim government at the center. मतलब क्या है? Long term disagreement को हम बगल में रख दो. Let us not discuss long term issues. Let us only focus on immediate issues. And immediately, what is the issue? How to form the interim government, provisional government. उसके बारे में चलो, let us try to agree at least on that issue first. So both Congress and Muslim League should have equal numbers in the interim government. Now this is an important point. League always and always claimed parity with Congress. आप और हम same. We should have equal number of provinces. We should have equal number of seats. We should have equal number of votes. It's a parity between the communities, between the parties, not between two individuals. Even if Muslims are 25%, let us say, and non-Muslims are 75%, League would say, we have one vote, you have one vote. Or parity of number of seats. In the interim government, if it's a ministry of 10 people, you should have 4 people, we will have 4 people, one for, let us say, Sikh, one for SC/ST. But 4 hone chahiye. That is the basic idea of League, parity. So Congress accepted that also. Chalo, koi baat nahi, let us be equal in the interim government. Both Congress and Muslim League should work together for the attainment of independence. Simple. These talks failed to find a solution for the prevailing political deadlock because when Jinnah came to know about it, he immediately repudiated the talks. No settlement could be reached between Congress and League. A sort of parity between Congress and League was decided upon, had far-reaching consequences. At least at conceptual level, Congress accepted that. So we have the two failed talks. One is Gandhi-Jinnah talk based on C. Rajaji plan, and other is Desai-Liaquat pact. Both of them failed, but in both of them, one by one, Congress ceded ground to Muslim League. In the first, tacitly Congress said there is a possibility of Pakistan. In the second, Congress and Muslim League are equal. Even if Congress wins 80% of the votes, Muslim League wins 20% of the votes, even then we are equal. At least technically in the central government. That is what Congress has accepted. None of this succeeded in anything. But then in negotiation, even when it fails, you come to know where the opponent stands. What is the thing he is willing to give to you? पता चल जाता है आपको. So in that way, these two talks were disastrous. Yes. Then you go to some major talks. The first one of them is the Wavell plan. Wavell was the Governor General and Viceroy. By this time, in the month of May, the Second World War is over. Japan has not yet surrendered. but Germany has surrendered. Japan would surrender in month of August. So, but World War is over. Various international developments and developments within India convinced Britain that Indian independence would not be delayed. Now, British have accepted. अब हमें निकलना पड़ेगा. What would be those developments? Can you guess? What are the reasons which would have compelled Britain to leave India? I have given you two headings already, international and domestic. Just have both of them. International. Can you guess? Globally, what happened due to World War II? Britain became weak. First point. Bipolar world doesn't emerge at that time immediately, but one thing is for sure, that Britain is no more a superpower. Instead, we have America and USSR emerging as superpowers, and they are against these European powers continuing their colonization. Neither French nor Dutch nor Indian. Why? At one level, it's Atlantic Charter, a principal demand that world should be free, because on that basis only they got the support of the colonies to fight the war, self-determination. But secondly, these new powers now want to have market access. अगर French and British controlled their provinces, control their colonies, how can America and USSR dominate them? So अब उनको चाहिए अपना मौका. Now they want their opportunity. So these people, the new superpowers, do not want old colonization to continue. That is the second thing. Third thing is the UNO emerging, and UNO also clearly says colonization is not allowed. The process starts. And fourthly, and more importantly, the battles and various wars start in different colonies. I talked about Southeast Asia yesterday. When Japan captured it, then Japan went away. There was a war in Indonesia, etc. So different countries are now fighting with their own armies for their independence. There is a resistance to colonization, or rather recolonization. You think all those, so globally the things have changed. Domestically, India is in kind of suppressed animation. There is a lot of anger, and that was so true, because after this rebel plan, to discuss the plan, all the Congress leaders will be released from jail. They were put in jail in 42. अब छोड़ना पड़ा उनको, to discuss with them. So as I said, the British expected to find Indians to be demoralized. They were not demoralized. We have RIN, we have INA trials and all those things going on. So people were on the verge of new revolution. Interestingly and more importantly, India had become a kind of liability for Britain. How so? That now the army, your hands are melting. So if another revolution happens, British are not sure whether they can suppress it. So it will have additional cost to send something from outside to suppress it, to say अच्छा छोड़ दो. More than that, India always was a reservoir of manpower and finances. But during the World War II, Britain leaned upon so much of finances from India, it does not felt उल्टा हो गया. अब India owned loan to the Britain. Britain had to pay to India now. India account was separate since 1935. Financial autonomy. So now Britain owed money to India. And Indian industry also leapfrogged. India, we have helicopter making, we have aeroplane making, ship making, not helicopter, ship and aeroplane making. Lots of industries increased in India due to World War II. So India was economically no more dependent on Britain, rather Britain was dependent on India. Britain owed a lot of money to India, and because of Indian awareness, Britain could not extract finances anymore. तो liability ज़्यादा है, asset कम है, क्यों चला है? It's a basic बनिया वाला गणित. Because Napoleon had said clearly that Britain is the biggest nation of shopkeepers. It's a shopkeeper mentality British have. That is the charge of Napoleon. It is very true. British are shopkeepers in their mentality. खाता लेके बैठेंगे तुरंत, ठीक है? So anyway, my point is that on all the domestic fronts also, it was no more possible and no more feasible to continue ruling India. So question was not there. हमें छोड़ना पड़ेगा. Now the question is how to do that. How to do that? In that we have three attempts: Wavell, Cabinet, and Mountbatten. So the first is Wewell. The plan was an interim measure or a stopgap arrangement because Wewell knew that elections are coming in a few months in England. So I cannot give a concrete plan, but till the point election comes, I need to do something, some kind of arrangement to solve the political deadlock. So it was an interim arrangement from the beginning. It was not supposed to solve the entire problem. So plan was an interim measure or a stopgap arrangement basically to meet some of the commitments made under Cribb's proposal, because the war with Japan in the Pacific was still going on and elections were coming in Britain. In this context, the real problem at this stage was establish a transitional government, an interim government. पहले वो बनाए, फिर आपस में बैठ के decide करेंगे. Because to come to negotiate, you have to come together. Where will you come together? Interim government. So, and whatever happens to India, we don't care if we have interim government. हम आपको दे दे, हम भाग जाए. अपना आप देख लो, देश एक रखना है, तोड़ना है, आपकी इच्छा में नहीं मिलेगा. Interim government is very important. So in June 45, Wewell announced a scheme, and it was called as Wewell Plan. Its purpose was to ease the political situation and to push India forward towards her goal of full-scale self-government. So what is the main idea here? Main idea is the reconstitution of Viceroy's Executive Council. So Executive Council is already there of Viceroy for decades, and it already is almost Indianized. Lots of people are Indians there. Like Ambedkar is part of Executive Council since 1942 as a labor member, right? And lots of Indians are there, but these Indians are not representative Indians. By that, what do I mean? These are handpicked by British as per their necessity. They are not coming from Indian political parties who have mass following. So none of the members was Congress or Muslim League person. They came from some elite background or such background which British found suitable. So what at that time Wewell said, all the members except Viceroy and Commander-in-Chief would be Indians now. Not substantially, but almost substantially. The vital department of external affairs would also be in the hand of Indians. So we call it, rather than reconstitution, it is actually Indianization. That would be a better term, I guess. Indianization of the Viceroy's Executive Council. So what is Wewell Plan? In one summary, one shabd, ek word, Indianization of Viceroy's Executive Council. That is Wewell Plan. And that itself will act as an interim government. The Executive Council was already predominantly Indians at this time, but the members were primarily non-political. Now, Viceroy was now to pick members of the council out of persons nominated by various parties. And different communities were to get their own share and parity. This is a typical British trick, always. So most of the Congress leaders who released in June 45 to enable to discuss. So discussions happened in Shimla. All the leaders in India gathered in Shimla at that time. Shimla was the summer capital. Gathered there to discuss how to do that. And it is here the plan was discussed and it failed. Why did it fail? It failed because of the very same reasons again and again. That Jinnah insisted, I am the sole representative of Muslims in India. Muslim League के बाहर कोई भी पार्टी किसी भी मुस्लिम को नहीं भेजेगी. Muslims are under me only. So League demanded that Muslims not belonging to the League could not be appointed in the Executive Council. Jinnah insisted that he was the Muslim League should be taken as the sole representative of Muslim masses. So Congress should not represent any Muslim. So the moment you accept that, what does it mean? Two-nation theory. So it is another way of saying two-nation theory being accepted by ensuring that Muslims are represented only through us and not through Congress. And Congress would never accept two-nation theory. We have rather composite nationalism. So Congress was not prepared to accept that. Maulana Azad, Congress leader of delegation, maintained that Congress represented all the communities of India and thus had a right to nominate Muslims as well, and not only Hindus. But Jinnah always thought of Congress as Hindu party. That was a single debate. So in crux, if I ask you why it failed because Congress did not like two-nation theory, but Jinnah insisted on being sole representative of Muslims. It was becoming gradually clear that nothing less than Pakistan was acceptable to the Muslim League and Jinnah. Since the deadlock could not be resolved, the Viceroy dropped the proposal. Again, the plan was failure. Nothing happened. But there was a main thing. In the process, for the first time, Viceroy has dropped the proposal because Jinnah has not agreed to. So what happened eventually? Jinnah got veto power. Jinnah got veto power to say which constitution will be accepted, which will not be acceptable to Muslims. So by denying, it gave a league virtual veto and strengthened its position. So Jinnah and Muslim League's position boosted like anything. You see at this point of time, who is Jinnah and what is Muslim League? What is their following? The latest election that happened was in 1937. क्या votes थे? कुछ नहीं थे. They could not have any single government. Gradually they got a few governments because of the World War II with the help of British by toppling other governments in some provinces. But Jinnah has not proven his popularity so far. Neither has Muslim League proven the popularity. In every election in which they have participated, they are not even in top 2 or top 3 in any province. And yet, he has got veto power. It is the way you prop up a ghost in front of you. So, who is doing that? From behind Wavell. Not British, it is Churchill. British have done that a lot, but here at that time, it is Churchill. Churchill ensured the failure of Cripps mission also. The same thing Churchill is doing from behind. It is the very DNA of Conservative Party. Then comes the last major attempt, that is the cabinet mission. The highest level delegation. It was the last attempt towards the negotiated settlement for Indian independence while keeping its unity intact. So, only thing that was kept intact was unity. Everything else under the figment of unity was conceded. फिर भी ये fail हुआ. That is the reason. Even then it failed. It means that Jinnah did not want anything short of Pakistan. Although there are some historians nowadays who claim, like 𝐂𝐤𝐧𝐧𝐬𝐿 in Pakistan. In her book, Jinnah, a sole Muslim spokesman or a sole spokesman, she has claimed that the idea of Pakistan was not real, it was just a bargaining chip to maximize कि आप एक ऐसी position रख दो in negotiation, put such a position which is maximum, which the next party cannot agree, but it ultimately gives you something at least less, but something more than what you would have otherwise got. तो आप शुरू करो 100 से, जैसे बार्गेन करते हो मार्केट में जाके 100 नहीं भैया 50 रुपए 75 में कटती है बीच में. That is what Jinnah is doing, asking for Pakistan as a bargaining chip, and his bluff was called off by Congress by accepting it. ले ले तेरा Pakistan. And what he got in return, the truncated, moth-eaten Pakistan. Punjab was divided, Bengal was divided. That was not Pakistan which was in his mind. उसके मन में पूरा पंजाब था, पूरा बंगाल था, entire Punjab, entire Bengal. He ultimately got half of Punjab, half of Bengal. So neither he was happy nor anybody else. So उसका हमने, it's like क्या गेम होता है वो 3 पत्ती का bluff. It was his bluff. That is what 𝐂𝐤𝐧𝐧𝐬𝐿 is saying. But I personally, I am not a historian anyway, but I read many other books. I think it is not a correct explanation. Jinnah actually intended, at least by 1946, to have real Pakistan. That is my understanding of the whole reading. Anyway, look at the background. Why was cabinet mission sent to India? In July 45, there was a general elections held in Great Britain. The Conservative Party was ousted. In place, we have Labour Party, and the Prime Minister was Clement Attlee. Attlee has always been in favor of India. The Labour Party, while fighting elections, in their manifesto had promised we will give India independence. And lots of Labour ministers, Labour politicians were personal friends of Congress people like Nehru. So it was a good thing for us. British people make a big danka baja ke ki dekho humne freedom diya hai. But as we have seen, it is not the Labour, it was rather the overall situation in India and Britain that compelled them to give India freedom. Rather, Labour had said कि will give them immediate freedom. उन्होंने भी 2 साल लगा दिए. तो अलग बात. So when he came, after that or around that, Japan also had surrendered. So he made 2 major announcements. Firstly, in the present scenario, we need to have first elections in India, so that we have Indian politicians जिनके साथ negotiate करें. So there will be general elections in India, which will be based on provincial and central government का जो कानून बना हुआ है. कौन सा बना हुआ है? A central government election will happen on Act of 1919, because 35 Act never came at federal level, but the provincial elections would happen at Act of 35. right? So that will happen. And in future, if we need to create a constituent assembly, it will be created out of these people only, indirect elections. And secondly, he said that a very high power delegation of British cabinet would be sent to India. And we have Patrick Lawrence, we have Strafford Cripps and A.V. Alexander. It is called as cabinet mission. So the senior most ministers in the entire British government, 3 of them came to India. They are old India friends, and they would finally सब negotiate कर देंगे. The first thing was the elections of December 45 to February 46. In those elections, we have central government and provincial assemblies. Now here you see the effect of communal polarization. If you compare these results with the elections of 37, it has been 8 years, and Congress and Muslim League, both of them do much better than they had done in 37. दोनों की position strong हो गई पहले से, but Congress की position became stronger by, let us say, 50% extra. League became much more stronger compared to the position from where it started. And both of them कैसे strong हो? How can both of them become strong? At the cost of every other party. Communist पत्ता साफ, हिंदू महासभा पत्ता साफ, Ambedkar पत्ता साफ. So all the other parties, other sectional interests get out of the picture. They get very few votes. Why? Because there is communal polarization, and we know it is happening today also. When you have polarization, you don't have hung parliament, you don't have coalition government, you have either this way or that way. Country is divided. So this was one of the most polarized elections in India. Unfortunately, what we know is that because of the Act of 1919 being operational for central government, only 1% Indians were eligible to vote for central government. And because the Act of 1935 was operational for provincial government, hardly 10-15% people were eligible to vote for provinces. So these elections actually do not represent Indian voice to large extent. It represents only 1% or 10-15% of Indians only. But kya kar? So Central Assembly, Congress won all 59 general seats, but none of the Muslim seats. Muslim League won all 30 seats reserved for Muslims, both of them. So there is complete polarization. If you go to provincial level also, Congress won 90%, and including almost all the seats reserved for SC and formed governments in 8 provinces, except in Bengal, Punjab and Sindh. And Muslim League got lots of votes. I have put or because in different books they give different numbers, so I am not sure. But doesn't matter. We don't need to remember those numbers anyway. In Punjab, you see that Muslim League improved its overall position, but ultimately it is Congress with some local parties who formed a government there. And in NWF, it is the only Muslim majority province where Congress could come to power. In Northwest Frontier Province, जो कहाँ पे है? West of Peshawar, Waziristan and all that region, Pathan. So that was because of the Frontier Gandhi, Sarhad Gandhi, that is red shirts. So, and same thing happened on the eastern side of India. If you look at Bengal, Bengal was towards Muslim League almost completely. But beyond Bengal, where Assam came to Congress. तो बात ये हो गई इंडिया मेजरली विद कांग्रेस, ईस्ट एंड वेस्ट फ्लैंक्स विद मुस्लिम लीग, एंड बियॉन्ड दैट वी हैव 2 स्मॉल पॉकेट्स विद कांग्रेस अगेन. अब करो पार्टीशन. सो इट वाज नॉट एन इजी सिचुएशन. ठीक है, एवरीबॉडी वाज सो अफ्रेड कि भाई हम कहाँ पे, इस तरफ किस तरफ. नोबडी नोस. यस. So the result showed that while Congress had fully retained its hold over the Hindu electorate, Muslim League had been the biggest gainer since the elections of 37. It was due to Jinnah's organizational activities as well as due to his vicious propaganda campaign we have seen during the entire 28 months rule of Congress ministry. Muslim League had committed vicious campaign against Congress. I discussed that. We discussed the ministries. Then in 1940 we have Pakistan resolution coming in Lahore for the first time with clear idea of what is the vision. Now once you have the idea of Pakistan, which is actually clear yet vague, Muslim League could go beyond its traditional vote bank. What was its traditional vote bank? It was just elites. It could be upper caste Muslims, it could be zamindar Muslims or old nobility in UP and Bihar and central provinces and Punjab, etc. But now once you have a vague demand of Pakistan, it becomes attractive to every other section. This old vote bank to hai hi. Additionally, the vague idea may everybody can see his or her own image. Ki what do they want? A business class among Muslims was weaker than among Hindus. They felt if we get a new Pakistan completely, it means there is no Hindu competition. So we have economic interest of entire business class of Muslims now supporting Muslim League. The same thing we had seen happening in the first Bengal partition 1905. Secondly, we have all the ulemas and peers, the Sufi, क्या कहते हैं उसको, dargahs. For example, in Sindh, started to have entire propaganda why we should have Pakistan. So the religious elites also entered, and who have the larger reach towards people into the fray. What is the meaning of Pakistan? Jinnah never defined the idea of Pakistan well apart from geography. Jinnah never said it will be Islamic State. He never. Rather, after freedom and partition, if you look at his first speech in Pakistani Assembly, he said Pakistan will be a secular state. But that he said afterwards. Pakistan banne ke baad, not before. Here, beforehand, he purposefully kept it vague so that he can gather maximum votes and maximum support. You can see the result. So the real significance of elections of 45-46 was that the League boldly started claiming that it solely represented the voice of Indian Muslim masses. So now, for the first time, it is proven on ground that Muslims vote only for. If you look at, for example, I will give number also. If you look at general electorates and separate electorates independently, in general, everybody is voting. 95 to 96% of the voters voted for Congress in general body, general electorates. In the separate electorates, 86.6% Muslims voted for Muslim League. So you know who is representing whom, clear hai, baat khatam. So in these elections you come to know, for example, Hindu Mahasabha, bhale kitne hi baatein kare, majority of Hindus were not supporting Hindu Mahasabha, they were voting for Congress. It's very clear from the election results. At least you go by 15% votes. So anyway, we had cabinet mission. After the elections, cabinet mission came to India in the month of March, and it started to visit everybody, leaders of every party, and then it proposed its own plan. What is that plan? That plan is very interesting. The delegation rejected the demand for Pakistan forthwith, कि हम Pakistan नहीं देंगे. So there will be a united India, and proposed for a weak union of India consisting of British Indian provinces and princely states. So we have a federal government, a union, but the union will be very weak. Now weak, what is the meaning of weak union? It means provinces will be stronger. In the list 1, list 2, list 3, list 1 is the smallest one. Only the ultimate things like defense, etc. are kept. Most of the rights are in the state list. What does it achieve? It achieves one thing. समझो आप इलेक्शन कैसे काम करता है, how does elections work? That at all India level, Hindus would be numerical majority. The central government is always represent a Hindu voice more than Muslim voice. But in provinces, there is diversity. Some provinces have Muslim prominence, some have Hindu prominence, some have Sikh prominence. So a Muslim dominated province would never have a Muslim anti-Muslim government. It will be always pro-Muslim government. तो इन दैट केस ये ना हो कल जाके कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हमारे खिलाफ जाके कुछ परेशान करे, तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट वीक रखो. दैट इज द होल मुस्लिम लीग डिमांड. वीकर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट and stronger provinces, because in the provinces there is a probability that we come in majority in some provinces. The next question comes, how many provinces Muslim League can come to majority in? So you have to bifurcate provinces in such a manner that there will be equal number of provinces on both the sides, 6 towards Congress and 6 towards Muslim League. So Muslim League always tried to ensure that also the number of provinces with Muslim League should be 6 and number of provinces with Congress will be 6. So parity wahan bhi. So parity in central government, weak central government, and parity in number of provinces. So that was the whole attempt. But anyway, I don't want to go into a lot of analysis here. Look at the cabinet mission plan. It recommended a federation comprising of the British Indian territories and princely states both. That is one clear thing. A central government was in charge of defense, foreign policy, and communication. That's all. That's all. And an interim government will come here. interim government will continue till the point of time the constitution is drafted by the Constituent Assembly. तब तक ये चलता रहे. Now, in all other matters, the provinces would enjoy complete self-government, and this was to satisfy Muslim League. Clear? Now, the second thing is Constituent Assembly. For that purpose, what did this thing cabinet mission suggest? It suggested 3 groups. It is called groupings or the group clause. That there will be provinces, there will be groups of provinces, and then central government. So we have central government, we have provinces, in between we have one more tier, one more level, groups of provinces, and there are 3 groups. Group A, Group B, Group C. In Group A, 6 Hindu-dominated provinces in mainland central India rather. Group B, we have the western provinces, Punjab and Balochistan, etc. And in Group C, we have East, Assam, Bengal, etc. We have these 3 groups. Now, the representatives of the provinces or the 3 different categories would constitute the Constituent Assembly, which would prepare a new constitution. And then each category would be free, if they so desired, to form a separate group or provinces. So, कहने का मतलब ये है, a province is free to choose whether they want to be part of Group A or Group B or no group, but it has to be a part of union. Union से बाहर नहीं जा सकते, group से बाहर जा सकते. ठीक है. Now, why this grouping thing? I said you are conceding as much Pakistan demand as possible without calling it a complete nation. So, Group B में क्या होगा? For example, in Group B, entire western region, जहाँ पे today we have Pakistan, would have come together as one group, and then it would have sought parity with the rest of India. So again, at that level you have parity. There was one more clause here which I have not mentioned, that after 10 years, the constitution will be revisited. At that time, Jinnah thought, okay, after 10 years I may come out of it. So, if center weak hai, provinces के पास police force है, so and provinces have groups, half of which are with Muslim League, what can Congress do? Cannot. So Jinnah wanted this, Jinnah liked this idea, and Nehru did not like this idea. On the other hand, Nehru and Congress, etc., always wanted a strong center. Why a strong center? Because the provinces should not have right to secede. Central government should be stronger. But not only for the provinces, they had a vision of modern India. India in which we have modern industry, no poverty. You have lots of central planning. And for that kind of planning and industry and education, you need to have a strong central government. अगर सेंट्रल में स्ट्रांग नहीं होगा, then the dream of India will not be fulfilled. So even ideologically, the left wing wanted strong center, and right wing within Congress also wanted strong center because they did not trust Muslim League. So right left came together within Congress on this issue that we should have strong center, but Jinnah wanted exactly opposite, weak center. समझ में आ रहा है नीलम? So concerns of League and Congress on the cabinet mission plan. So long-term problems. League ruled out the cabinet mission, ruled out the idea of Pakistan. So League did not like this part of cabinet mission. Congress also did not like some part of cabinet mission, that is no immediate independence. आप उसकी बात ही नहीं कर रहे. Talk about independence first, but CM is not talking about it. CM is cabinet mission, CMP. So on these long-term issues, both of them had some kind of disagreement with cabinet mission. But at about weak center, League loved it. So provided considerable autonomy to the provinces, 2 of which now controlled by League. League was liking it. On the other hand, Congress did not like it, not the kind of federation it envisaged. There were apprehensions that with a weak center, the provinces might secede in future. And Congress was also disagreeable the concept that in the princely states it would be the potentates and not the people who would decide about accession. It's about princely states. What will happen to princely states in this scenario? Because as I said, 40% of India is outside British India, and there are 550 princely states. Who will decide their future? Plan said it will be the prince, but Congress said no, it should be the people. So that was also one point of difference, because if prince decides to stay independent, what will happen? Grouping clause. Now this grouping clause all the 6 provinces which the League wanted Pakistan to comprise were put in Group B and Group C, in which any case would remain under dominance of League. Thus, as against 6 provinces of Congress, League got parity, so League was happy. And Jinnah apparently had an idea that future mein we'll secede. This will give us a good grounding, the footing to come out of India. Grouping clause. Nehru or other Congress accepted the proposals, but at the same time expressed reservations about the groupings. Congress ने कहा कि ठीक है, interim government is fine, but this grouping clause we don't like. So it tried to wriggle out the situation by putting its own interpretation. Nehru का जो वकीली तरीका है, his education of wakili came handy here. Nehru said grouping clause is there, but there is nowhere mentioned in the mission that it is compulsory. It is not mandatory. So Northwest Frontier Province and Assam, जहाँ पे हमारा राज है, where our government is there, these provinces can decide not to be a part of Group B or Group C. Jinnah said no, higher up, they have to be part of grouping clause is compulsory. For Jinnah, for Nehru it was optional. So उस बात पे भयानक झगड़ा हो, and that was the breaking point for cabinet mission. Grouping clause is compulsory or optional. Congress tried to wriggle out of the situation by putting its own interpretation on the grouping of the provinces, that it would be optional and not compulsory, which was rejected by the mission. At that time, all the 3 people of cabinet mission were still in India. Ultimately, Nehru went to them and asked, what is your intention? Is it compulsory or optional? They took some time, they said it is compulsory. So the Congress accepted the plan only partially. It rejected the grouping clause. It did not like it, but it said interim government fine. Now, why do we need a grouping clause? Grouping clause is regarding the Constituent Assembly. If you look at the mission, the proposals of the mission very carefully, you will come to know that when it comes to federation, central government points, etc., it is all for interim measure, which Congress is okay with. But when it comes to Assembly, it is grouping clause, which Congress is not okay with. So Constituent Assembly के बारे में Congress was not happy, but it said we accept partially only first part, that is interim government. ठीक है, समझ में आ रहा है? Too much. Parallelly, Wavell actually was not very happy. So there is another, as I said here, no, there is +1. So this +1 now. We have seen Wavell plan, we have seen cabinet mission plan. Let's look at this +1 of Wavell. So Wavell came with something called as breakdown plan. He thought that there is a possibility in which Congress and League do not agree with each other. What to do? हमें तो निकलना है, we have to leave. But we don't have to leave completely because a Cold War is starting. It is already May of 46. Cold War has already started. So we want a foothold in Asia, and for us, perhaps League is a better friend for the Western Bloc, America and Britain. So we want Russia might expand, China might become communist. So we want military to be stationed in Asia. Congress is becoming more socialist. So they will not allow us any station in India. So let us divide India so that we can have some toehold in Asia, so that it will be helpful in the World War, in the Cold War. That was their clear idea. That how do we know based on this plan? So we have a secret plan. They will present it to cabinet. This plan envisaged the withdrawal of the British army and officials to Muslim provinces of Northwest and Northeast, and handing over rest of India to Congress. कि Congress तुम तुम्हारा इंडिया ले लो, हम मुस्लिम लीग साथ में रहेंगे ईस्ट में और वेस्ट में. But that was just an idea, just idea. So though superseded by the cabinet mission plan, Wavell's plan was evidence of British recognition of the impossibility of suppressing any future Congress-led rebellion. कि कांग्रेस को मनवा नहीं सकेंगे. And then desire in some high official circles to make Northern Ireland out of Pakistan. So we want to carve India into different parts, different sections, and we want to control one section so that it will help us in our global politics. So partition is not the outcome of a very single intention. Every party had some of its own intention behind it. British also wanted partition to happen for this reason. So anyway, when the cabinet mission plan was either accepted or rejected, rather accepted, Muslim League accepted it very immediately. But till this point of time, Muslim League always waited for Congress to respond first. Crips may, if you remember Crips, it is Congress responded first, Muslim League then responded either yes or no. Even before that, August offer same thing. Muslim League never responded before Congress. It always waited to see Congress kya kar. What is Congress doing? Then we'll make our stance clear. But here for the first time in cabinet mission, Muslim League accepted for the first time quickly, even before Congress. So much eager it was with the grouping clause. But anyway, and Congress accepted then partially. In the short-term objective of the cabinet mission, CMP was the installation of interim government comprising of all major Indian political groups. So in June 46, Viceroy made an abortive bid for installation of interim government, but it failed. Government could not be formed. Why? Jinnah claimed the same thing, that Congress should not represent any Muslim. Jinnah claimed to be the sole representative of Muslims and would not let Congress nominate Muslims in the cabinet. He also insisted on the League's parity with Congress as well as its exclusive right to nominate all Muslim members, an idea which was not acceptable to Congress. Same issue. Is Jinnah a sole Muslim representative or not? Same issue going on once more. Ultimately, cabinet mission frustrated and left India. It was partially successful technically because its plan was accepted by both the parties, but it was failure because the interim government could not be formed. It left. It had failed basically because it was too late in the day to provide a practicable solution which is acceptable, and implementing its plan was sure to lead to fragmentation of India instead of partition. Groupings hote to alag alag thode ho jate. Then after the mission has left, now the attempt was made to form a constitutional assembly. So mission wanted to have two things, very clear and very simple. On one hand, immediately you want interim government. On other hand, you want constitutional assembly. Both things should happen. Interim government, first attempt to be formed, failed. Let us try this one now. We have constitutional assembly. Now in the assembly, you have elections first. These are the indirect elections. The provincial MLAs are already chosen, if we can call them MLAs. And from those MLAs now, we have the indirect elections of the representatives in the Constituent Assembly. So the elections to the Constituent Assembly were held in July. Members of the body were elected by the provincial assemblies through a system of proportional representation. Congress won the elections by a huge margin. It won 208 seats by general category and others. Muslim League got 73 out of 78 reserved seats for Muslims. The same thing. We have polarization. Muslim Leagues have less, excuse me, total number is less, but amongst the Muslim it has almost all the numbers. We have again polarization happening. After that, what do we come to know? That the Constituent Assembly will pass anything based on majority vote. The fundamental rights, DPSP, everything on majority vote. So does Muslims, despite having Muslim League as a strong, do they have majority? No. So they now fear that Congress will just subside us. हमें पूरा भूल देंगे. That is what the fear of Jinnah was always. Central government will be Hindu dominated always. हमें नहीं चाहिए India. Simple one. So Nehru also gave one statement. So the fact that we will drop the proposal is evidence of Britishers also supporting partition, right? Anushka, it is not supporting partition. It is a evidence of British supporting Muslim League. Anyway, so Nehru and Congress rather always wanted to get out of this grouping clause. Grouping clause is the route to multiple partitions in the future. So Nehru, being again a lawyer, what did he say? Now we have formed a constituent assembly. We are not bound by any law. अब हम बैठ के डिसाइड करेंगे ग्रुपिंग होगा कि नहीं होगा. अंग्रेज को ना बनाते बताने वाले. The moment he gave such a statement, Jinnah got alarm कि भाई ये तो धोखा है. So barely 2 weeks after the acceptance of the two major groups, a statement by Nehru on 10th of July about the Congress interpretation of the plan threw a spanner in its scheme of implementation. Nehru declared that Congress was not bound by any restrictions of the proposals. He was only agreeing to join the Constituent Assembly, and it was for the Constituent Assembly to decide upon all the issues, including grouping, non-grouping, everything. Then League said, ki bhai, if that is your interpretation, then we reject the plan. So now League passed a proposal in the end of July, 29-30 July, that the plan is rejected. League had accepted plan first. Now afterwards Congress accepted. Then the secondary elections happened, assembly happened, and then League said, "हम reject कर रहे हैं," because of Nehru's statement. The League was apprehensive about the whole scheme of the Constitutional Assembly in view of the overwhelming majority of the Congress. Thus, the League backed out. It claimed that Congress was bent upon setting up a caste Hindu Raj in India with the connivance of the British and demanded the immediate establishment of Pakistan. No, Congress was not Hindu party. Majority of Hindus voted for Congress, but Congress agenda was not Hindu agenda. It was always a secular polity, a Nehruvian leftist socialist idea. But Jinnah would not see the difference. Jinnah दोनों का एक ही बात है जिन्ना के लिए. But then there was another attempt in the month of August to, if we have not been able to create a constitutional assembly, let's try to create interim government once more. So second attempt of interim government. In that 12th of August, Viceroy invited Nehru to form interim government. The situation took a turn for the worse when Nehru offered 5 seats to Jinnah. And Jinnah rejected. He said, "बहुत हो गया. Now I am a constitutionalist. Since the time of Tilak, I always focus on liberal negotiation and not on street agitation. But now I reject liberal negotiation. अब आपको सबक में कर, अब we'll go to roads. We'll show you what to do. Direct action. Only that will help us." So he declared direct action on the day of 16th of August 1946. That Muslims will show that they want Pakistan. So rallies will be brought on in entire India, wherever Muslims are there. But in Bengal at that time, we had Bengal Province Central Muslim League. The chief minister was Suhrawardi. And Suhrawardi was completely Muslim League person. By that time, he, on the very day of 16th of August, चला के देखो, उसने कहा public holiday. Entire government of the state is on a holiday. Police is out of the street and Muslim League hooligans have entire Calcutta city for themselves. पूरे रास्ते पे कत्लेआम कत्ले गरज चल रही है. 2-4 दिन में 4000 लोग काटे गए. 10,000 लोग, मतलब it was the worst day of communal killing in Calcutta because Jinnah announced to show direct action and state government, which was Muslim League, it said चलो riots करो, खत्म. So Calcutta, encouraged and protected by the local Muslim League government, League volunteers went on a rampage of arson, rape and murder. Hindus resorted to counter violence and for several days riot ruled the streets. Thousands were killed and injured. This terrible episode is known as the Great Calcutta Killings. We have the dead bodies there of people. Soon the League inspired riots spread across India, especially in Bengal, Bihar and Assam. What to do? Now you will see gradually from here, from 16th of August 1946 to 15th August 1947, we have one complete year. In that one complete year, negotiations again restart. But one person is missing from action, MIA, from all the negotiations. Who is Mahatma Gandhi? He is concerned about communal harmony more than India's independence. For him, political independence does not mean anything if such kind of riots are happening. वो बेचारा 75 साल का बूढ़ा is going from town to town village stopping riots. He never came to Delhi till the very end. On the 15th of August, उसने fasting करा. दुख का दिन है. India got partitioned. The long cherished dream of India, Hindu-Muslim unity, is not taking place. Anyway, so he was going to all these regions of Assam, Bihar, Bengal, especially Naukhali, to try to subside the riots. While all other people, it could be Jinnah, it could be Patel, it could be Nehru, all of them are negotiating in Delhi. And that is one argument, why do you have so much hurry to negotiate? Let us stop. But the assessment of these leaders was also valid. They thought ki bhai, it is uncontrollable. The sooner we get control in our hand, we'll be able to control it. Let's get independence as soon as possible so that we can control the riots. So हर एक का assessment थोड़ा situational assessment is different. What can we do? Finally, ultimately, interim government was formed. Nehru was already sworn in. Then he had nominated 3 Muslim members. Now Jinnah felt powerless. He said कि भाई, I cannot remain outside power. Congress कुछ कर लेगी, तो if Congress does something else, what can I do? I have to be inside the government, and then I have to follow the old Congress tactic of obstructing it from within. So I will be part of interim government. I will create as many obstructions as possible to show that you cannot govern without us. So Muslim League became part of the government, interim government. He joined, and many crucial portfolios were given to Muslim League. For example, finance ministry. It went to Liaquat Ali Khan. Anyone who controls finance ministry controls the purse strings to all other ministries. कोई कुछ काम नहीं कर पाएगा. Nobody can function without finances. And any proposal by any Congress minister was rejected by Liaquat Ali Khan. So interim government became unworkable. Despite Nehru being prime minister, he could not do anything. And the riots were raging across India. Nothing could be done. British could have done something. British also chose not to do anything. So this interim government started to malfunction. League joined the interim government on its own terms. It had neither withdrawn its resolution of 29-30 July in which it had said कि reject the cabinet mission. तो mission तो rejected है, फिर भी आ रहा है इसके अंदर, and rejecting the long-term component of the mission plan, nor was it willing to join the Constituent Assembly. In fact, with the leagues joining the interim government, the situation took a worse turn. Jinnah's intention was to sabotage the working of the interim government from within, because smooth working of the government only meant increase of Congress's power and dilution of issue of partition. He wanted to paralyze the whole system till his demand for Pakistan was met. So, single person, single-minded focus. Agar if you see it as a game of chess between the two wakils on two sides, Nehru versus Jinnah, I think Jinnah came out to be much better shatir person to get his game done. If that is what going on here, it's like 2 years of politics going on at high tables, and Jinnah was able to get his Pakistan. Congress could not do much. It continued to obstruct the functioning of government to create a deadlock. Muslim League members of the cabinet would obstruct every decision of Congress ministers. Liaquat Ali Khan, as the finance minister, would reject every proposal of Nehru, making a mockery of interim government. To further destabilize the whole administrative system, Muslim League started a series of communal riots all over country. So on one hand, you create the riots, on the other hand, you can't allow the police to go there. So kya hoga? It only proved Congress is incapable of government. That is what is being proven. Even the hopes that it would also soon join Constituent Assembly were soon belied. Now, this is an interesting point. So, Cabinet Mission had given you two things, interim government and Constituent Assembly. Muslim League has joined only interim government, but not the assembly. What Congress wanted Muslim League to do? Join both. Muslim League ने बस ये join किया, ये नहीं किया. And ये join करके भी बोले तोड़ दो अंदर से. The whole situation appeared to be grim in the face of communal riots. Ultimately, Constituent Assembly met without Muslim League. We cannot wait. It ultimately met without Muslim League. So, Muslim League boycotted the Constituent Assembly when it met on December. On 11th of December, Rajendra Prasad was appointed. We know that all this story we have seen in history of polity, lecture number 1 or 2 maybe. The vice chairman was H.C. Mukherjee, and constitutional advisor was B.N. Rao, Sir B.N. Rao, Benegal Narsingh Rao. His role was extremely important. Two bureaucrats who played a very seminal role during independence. If you want to aspire to have a kind of role models, one is V.P. Menon, other is B.N. Rao. Without them, independence would not have been possible the way it is. V.P. Menon for putting all the princely states together, creating united India along with Sardar Patel, and B.N. Rao acted as advisor to both Mountbatten, Patel and Ambedkar later. Very true important, but bureaucrats are behind the curtains. They don't come in public much, so you don't know much about them. You know Shyam Benegal? Shyam Benegal, pata hai, director of the movie Shyam Benegal. He comes from the family of Sir B.N. Rao. But anyway, you don't watch movies currently. Then on 13th of December, you have objective resolution, which later on became preamble. So Nehru declared to resolve the Constituent Assembly to proclaim India as independent, sovereign republic, as a union constituting of territories that comprise British India and princely states, as well as other territories willing to join the union. जब ये हो रहा था, Muslim League said, "Bhai, this is now too much. You are now having a vision of united India with its strong center. We won't allow that." So the Muslim League retaliated by more street violence, and law and order situation worsened, creating conditions of near anarchy on the streets. Thus, the assembly was adjourned. The Constituent Assembly ने कहा, "We cannot go beyond this. We need Muslim League in the assembly to go further." So let us adjourn the assembly. First session was adjourned, and again the negotiation started in India and London. Both Jinnah and Nehru both went to London. They had a meeting in the British Parliament. They came back, but nothing done. Jinnah did not agree. So the Congress raised the demand that either league should join the Constitutional Assembly or leave the interim government. Ek kuch to karo. Either you come on board with the entire thing or get out completely. Let us function. And Jinnah or league would neither leave the interim government nor would join the Constitutional Assembly. It created exact deadlock engineered by Jinnah. When the assembly reassembled on 20th January, the objective resolution was unanimously adopted, but the Muslim League members again boycotted it. Soon the league denounced the UB League went one step further. It started saying why we don't want to join the assembly, because its composition is all Hindu dominated, Congress dominated, we don't want it. It denounced the composition, and which made the Congress demand the league's resignation from the interim government. Congress ने कहा यहाँ से भाग जाओ वहाँ से भाग जाओ. So, but the Viceroy, now यहाँ at this point of time, British could have played a positive role. British could have either forced Jinnah to join the assembly or leave interim government. British did neither. बैठे रहे हाथ पैर धरे. That also shows that British were, sometimes you do some sin by act of commission, sometimes you do some sin by act of omission. A sin of omission by British. The stalemate continued and all attempts to work out the cabinet mission plan failed entirely, and now as the die was cast for the non-implementation of the cabinet mission plan in its entirety, it was ultimately failed. So on both levels, one was interim government, other was Constitutional Assembly, both could not come out completely with league, it failed. Now how to come out of this deadlock, what to do? Then Attlee got frustrated by I have to do something else. So Attlee again came forward and said, let me do something more radical. So he gave a statement in British Parliament that British are leaving India in June 48. तारीख ही दे दी, उसके पहले जो करना है करो, हम तो जा रहे, टाटा बाय बाय. We will remain in India only till June 48. We are going after that. So this is the now real deadline in front of you. The historic declaration surprised many. Declaration, however, put it plain that the Indians would have to settle their differences within the stipulated period. In the wake of Attlee's statement, another series of bloody communal riots fomented by the Muslim League swept over Punjab and Bengal. The country was moving towards a civil war situation. So anything happens at high level, Jinnah would start 10 more riots. Then in the month of March 47, ultimately there were actually some differences between Attlee and Wavell. Wavell wanted to find some solution in the present system of cabinet mission. Attlee figured out it will not work. So if the Viceroy does not believe in the mission, he cannot be the Viceroy. So isko hata diya. And then in his place, Mountbatten was in India. Mountbatten, as we know, was the one who led Burma campaign. Mountbatten of Burma. He was also from the British royal family. So he was sent to India with a clear mandate to hasten the process of the British withdrawal from India. By go there, finish it off. Wavell who had favoured the continuation of the British rule for a few years more, was replaced by Lord Mountbatten. He was given a clear mandate to arrange for the transfer of power to the Indian hands as soon as possible. Thus now the entire deadlock that was created by cabinet mission was put aside. Let us start afresh. So this plan also failed. So Wavell plan failed, cabinet mission failed. But at least something was there to cabinet mission. We have interim government. We have Constitutional Assembly formed. It is now started to function. But the dispute is not resolved. So comes Mountbatten to India. Now, he was Admiral Lord Louis Mountbatten. So it is like a mission for him. You are a general of the army, you are given task, you are given deadline, orderly retreat in under given time and circumstances. So he is implementing it as a project, as a military general more and a politician less. So he doesn't care about it. So partition ho jane do. For crore log mar jane do. I don't bother. This is what best solution I can get in given timeline. As per my assessment, I will get it done. So last year only, the author of that book died. I think one and a half year ago, 1 year ago. Dominic Lapierre. The book was Freedom at Midnight. about this 5 and 6 months. Fantastic book he wrote, Freedom at Midnight. But anyway, Mountbatten had 1 year's time at hand. He came in March, yet till June of the next year. And he was given plenipotentiary powers, means all the decisions you can take. Before that, Cripps had to talk to the home. Wewell had to talk to home. He is like, don't talk to us, you take a call. Khatam. You have all the powers to decide on the spot. To complete the transition, soon after arrival in India, he plunged into serious discussions with everybody, and then he found that situation is too explosive for gradual power of transfer of power. He concluded that the only practical solution is partition, and partition right now. That was his assessment by meeting every leader for a couple of times. Then he had initially proposed that all provinces would be independent successors. Now the question is, he has got an assessment of the situation that this is the only solution, India partitioning into two countries. But how do you make Indians agree? His skill of persuasion and pressuring now come into play. उसने वही किया, bargaining. He kept different proposal. India के दो नहीं 50 टुकड़े करना चाहता हूँ मैं. So that kind of plan is called as Plan Balkan or Dickey Butt. He said कि we are going away. Right now, India has multiple provinces and princely states. Everybody will be independent. To take a call, if you want to come together, you come together. It's your call. I am going. Tata. So Nehru said, what is this preposterous thing? It is Plan Balkan. It is complete. Then he said, okay, you don't want that to happen? Then agree for one partition at least. So he pressurized all the sides. To Jinnah also. Jinnah was not ready for partition because he wanted complete Punjab and complete Bengal. To Jinnah he said, bhai tum kya baat kar rahe ho? What are you saying? Nonsense. If you want Pakistan on the basis of principle of self-determination, then you should give the same right to Punjabis who are not Muslims and Bengalis who are not Muslims. Same principle applies to everybody. So if you want partition, partition will happen within Punjab and within Bengal. You cannot have entire Punjab, entire Bengal. So he pressurized both. Otherwise, बोला जिन्ना को भूल जाओ, मैं जा रहा हूँ. So, and how did he pressurize them? With the idea of Plan Balkan. Punjab and Bengal would be partitioned by simple majority. Each province would be allowed to choose either to join Constitutional Assembly or not. It was called Plan Balkan or Dickey Butt Plan. It was also called Ismay Plan. Ultimately, everybody rejected it. Then he said, Acha, then come to negotiate. And what was the negotiation? He gave other plan. So what we have seen just now, Mountbatten giving us, we have seen this +1. This was the Plan Balkan, which was just to threaten, and then came the real plan. Like if you go to ORM and you want to rent a home or a room, you go to agent. Then you put your all requirements. Second floor nahi chahiye, first floor chahiye, AC, water, area, jo kuch. The first house he shows is always kharab wala house. Why? Because he wants you to accept the second house. You go to the first house, you don't like it, the second house is much better. Aha, yehi badhiya ghar hai. Le lo. That is the typical mentality of brokers over here. Right? So this is what is happening. Have you done that? Have you seen the first house? Never first house is good. Kyun? So then he gave his real plan, the second house, जहाँ पे आपको लेना पड़ेगा. That is Plan June 3rd or Mountbatten Plan. An alternative plan was given where India was to be partitioned and new state of Pakistan was to be created along with free India. दो देश बनेंगे, two countries will be emerging out of it, and Pakistan will be comprising of Sindh, Balochistan, Northwest Frontier Province, Western Punjab, East Bengal. Secondly, the Constitutional Assembly would go ahead with the task of framing the Constitution. Which assembly? It is already formed under Cabinet Mission. That will go on continuing. The dissident group of Muslim League, which actually had some seats in the assembly, those seats will not be there anymore for them. So they will have their own assembly. So we have two constitutional assemblies now. Partition of Punjab and Bengal would take place based on the majority of population at the district level. So in 46-47, what happened? There will be new elections in Punjab and Bengal, and then there will be partition based on the majority of every district. And then the NWFP and Sylhet, the people would exercise their choice of joining either one or the other assembly through referendum. So NWFP and Sylhet is a Hindu portion today in Bangladesh. It is just inside Assam, sorry, south of Assam in Bangladesh. So NWFP was with Congress, but it was a Muslim portion beyond Punjab, and Sylhet was sandwiched between Assam and Bangladesh, and that wanted to come to India. You know that Sylhet story, no? If you look at the map of India, oh, it's a very interesting story. It is here you have Malda. It is here you have Sylhet. If you would have gone with the majority voting as per the Mountbatten plan, then Malda, which today is in India, Malda should have gone to Pakistan. It is completely Muslim district. It voted for being part of Eastern Pakistan. And same, but in the reverse was for Sylhet, it should have come to India. The problem was that if the Malda had gone to Pakistan, then the boundaries become too difficult. You cannot have a normal boundary, and then you cannot function properly. So Malda geographically has to come on India's side, but demographically should go to Pakistan side. And Sylhet ka exactly ulta. Geographically it should go to Bangladesh or East Pakistan. Demographically it should have come to India. अब वहाँ पे because of the sake of administrative convenience we bartered. You take Sylhet, give us Malda. Today Malda is a very big corridor of corruption, of illegal migration to India, of FICN, fake Indian currency notes coming to India, of lots of things. BSF is not able to function properly in Malda. And Sylhet, after 71, Sylhet population gradually all of them came to Assam. So the lots of things are there. But anyway, there would be a negotiated settlement between the successor government and the British government about the matters arising out of transfer of power. जो कुछ है हमारा खाता हम देख लेंगे उस समय. The British paramountcy over the princely states would come to an end, and they can join either this or that or retain autonomy. Now there was secret arrangement here, and that was that to make Congress accept partition, which nobody wanted actually, Mountbatten said the alternative to partition is chaos and anarchy and balkanization of India, but if you accept partition, I will do something for you. I will give something else. That is what Mountbatten told Congress people. Now what is that something else? United India. I will do whatever is in my capacity to ensure after independence that you get control over all the princely states. So it is not only Patel and VP Menon, but also the much more action of Mountbatten that helped to create United India. That was also the unsaid barter between Congress and Mountbatten. You see, Mountbatten used his charm, pressurized all the princely states, come here, join this, and then standstill agreement and all this instrument taxation. We'll see all of that much later in the post-independence history. But Mountbatten played a role in keeping rest of India united. Okay. This was followed by Mountbatten's declaration. Now, not only the plan of partition that was made to agreed, he was a military general. He put one more line. No more no more the 48th of July, 15 August 47. I am going in 3 months. So now, if you look at the movie Gandhi or any other documentary, you will see in Delhi people are sitting with round table, Mountbatten, Jinnah, Nehru, Patel, etc. And पीछे calendar है. Day 90, day 89, day 87, day 86. There is countdown. Mountbatten comes every day. एक पान फाड़ दे calendars. इतने दिन बच्चे decide कर लो. A lot of drama was created to put pressure on Indians कि भाई इतना ही time है, decide कर लो. बहुत साल हो गए. So he is an interesting fellow. So finally came because it's a shock therapy. You have to give timeline to give shock. Then only people will ultimately settle. But it led to lots of consequences. What he did, he made Congress and League accept partition, but from where the partition line will pass, nobody knew. Just 5 weeks before the independence, he imported red cliff from somewhere who had never come to India before in India. And all the two sides, east and west, were bifurcated based on new maps. आधा घर यहाँ पे, आधा गांव वहाँ पे, आधा रास्ता, खेती यहाँ, नहर यहाँ, गांव शहर, मतलब घर यहाँ पे, गांव यहाँ पे, आंगन एक देश में और बरामदा दूसरे देश में, ये सब हुआ है. It was a very disastrous thing. 5 weeks boundary award under Radcliffe by Mountbatten because time नहीं. Not only that, he made that public. The plan of partition was made public on 16th of August. So on 15th August, we had no idea. And 16th August, it came to know we are partitioning. गांव में लोग, मैं इंडिया में, पाकिस्तान में, पता नहीं कहाँ पे हूँ, कहाँ पे जाना. It is a disastrous thing. It looks very comedy. I agree, but no, I agree. It looks comedy today, but it was a disastrous thing for many thousands of people, millions of people rather. And we know those train tragedies and everything. So an AICC meeting during 14-15 June endorsed the plan with some opposition. As a consolation, while accepting the partition plan, AICC expressed the hope that ultimately the doctrine of two nations would be discarded by all. हम एक दिन आशा रखते हैं दो बिछड़े भाई दोबारा इकट्ठा आएंगे. Never say never. Gandhi even hoped this is a temporary partition for British to go. Once they go, I will go to Pakistan. I will bring the two countries together. So Congress at that time was in a fool's errand. It felt that partition is temporary. You know, on Bangladesh side, to alag baat hai. On West Pakistan side, Punjab, Rajasthan, etc., there was not even border. Till the war of 65, we did not have a border on the ground. कुछ था ही नहीं, कोई जा रहा है, कोई जा रहा है, कुछ भी चल रहा है. After 65, we started to demarcate border on the ground कि भाई यहाँ पे हमारी fencing होगा. Because we thought it can be united one day. Nobody envisaged it can be permanent like this. This was soon followed by the acceptance of plan by Muslim League. Now the plan was approved by House of Commons and they made it into Act of Indian Independence 1947. The same time Radcliffe Boundary Commission was appointed. It took 5 weeks. It was made public on 16th of August. And then we have 15th of August as Dominion State. And then we have both the things. On India side, 15th of August, midnight speech is very famous, Tryst with Destiny by Nehru, the most famous speech that he has given. That famous line, long years ago we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantial. Not wholly or in full measure, matlab there is partition, but substantial. We have a united, centrally strong government on the 75% of India, substantial. And Congress president was J.B. Kripalani. Kripalani was saying exactly opposite. He said he was from Sindh. His land was gone outside India, and he said a day of sorrow and destruction for India. Gandhi ने तो कहा हड़ताल है आज के दिन में खाना नहीं खाऊंगा. There is an uncle of Sardar Bhagat Singh called Sardar Ajit Singh. He was in exile after 1920s. Nehru had requested him come back to India in 1946. He had come back to India on 15th of August and he committed suicide. He was revolutionary. ये क्या देख रहा हूँ. On the other hand, we have a very great speech by Aurobindo on that day. So it was a day of mixed. एक हाथ में रो रहे हो, एक हाथ से हंस रहे हो. Simple. So Nehru became India's Prime Minister and Mountbatten continued to become India's Governor General because he wanted to ensure कि भाई unity of India with all the princely states. But on the Pakistan side, Jinnah became Governor General. At that time, Islamabad city was not constructed. It was constructed afterwards, after a couple of decades. The capital was Karachi. It is very interesting. Karachi is a city of Muhajirs. The Muslims of UP and Bihar go to Karachi. Pakistan is Punjabi dominated. So the capital has to go to Punjab and not to Sindh because Karachi is nothing but Bombay, a cosmopolitan city. So original capital was Karachi, but it was moved to Islamabad after a few years. But in 47, it was Karachi. And Liaquat Ali Khan became the Prime Minister. And Jinnah said, he was happy actually, but he still said, it's truncated and moth-eaten Pakistan. Tukde bhi tukde mein de diya. So, and Mahatma Gandhi was nowhere in Delhi, nowhere celebrating. He was in Naukhali, trying to douse the communal fires. That is the end of